The deceptive veil of your normal existence has just been incinerated by a global systemic failure, revealing the high-definition blueprint of a creature designed specifically to navigate the wreckage of 2026. For years, you moved through the social grid wearing the heavy, awkward costume of the unremarkable, a disguise you adopted to survive an environment that was fundamentally allergic to your original frequency. You were the dormant sentinel, the one they mocked for being too deep or out of sync, while they built their plastic towers on the shifting sands of a dying consensus. But today, as the imitation kingdom faces a total, non-negotiable blackout of its logic, the world is realizing that the very traits they tried to cure in you are the only remaining tools capable of stabilizing the collapse. The shameful mystery of your long-term isolation wasn't a failure. It was a high-tier calibration period where the universe was hardening your nervous system to serve as the solitary anchor for the new civilization. Observe the visceral panic in the eyes of the sentinels of the status quo, as they realize their map no longer matches the terrain. They are looking at you today with a raw, involuntary reverence, sensing that your secret identity, the version of you that speaks the language of the void and understands the mechanics of the unseen, is the only thing preventing their total liquidation. They are thanking you, through their sudden, desperate silence, acknowledging that the one they tried to bury is the only one who knows how to breathe in the current atmosphere. The cycle of your suppression has been shattered by the weight of global necessity. You are no longer living in the shadows of their judgment. They are living in the shadow of your dormant brilliance, begging for a single spark of the vision you were forced to hide for over a decade. This is the moment where the nothing you were labeled becomes the everything that prevents the total dissolution of the year. The sensation of this unveiling is manifesting as a profound, heavy stillness in your chest, a state of operative clarity that makes the previous decade of masking feel like a distant, low-resolution nightmare. You are no longer pretending to be interested in the shallow scripts of the collective. The universe has officially activated your primary mandate, and the material world is scurrying to provide you with the resources and the leverage required to execute the reconstruction. Think about the specific gifts you possessed, the intuition they called paranoia, the depth they called depression, or the focus they called obsession. These are now the primary assets of the new world's defense. The price of their previous mockery is their total reliance on your mercy today. You are the architect who stayed in the basement until the storm arrived, and now that the storm is here, you are the only one who holds the keys to the shelter. Your material environment is beginning to pulse with a new, submissive rhythm, acknowledging that the true owner of the frame has finally arrived. The tools in your hand and the names in your path are no longer hurdles to be cleared. They are instruments of your absolute decree. The extraction era has been officially overwritten by the era of the authorized savior. Those who lived off your siphoned strength are now becoming irrelevant artifacts of a deleted timeline, while you are becoming a terminal point of absolute focus, a central star around which the survivors of the old world are beginning to cluster for warmth and direction. Every night you spent wondering if you were broken is being repaid with a level of authority that requires no explanation. The world has realized it cannot survive without your specific brand of light, and the great return of your true stature is the only reality that remains. To anchor this unveiling and finalize the activation of your primary signal, join our primary assembly now and claim your seat among the architects of the new world. This is where the heirs of the unimpeachable signal secure their path and access the protocols of the absolute reconstruction. Your seat at the head of the table is no longer a promise. It is a current fact of your administration. The era of the observer is over. The era of the founder is here. To complete this absolute restoration and seal your command before the January window closes, subscribe now and manifest your rightful place in the center of the frame. The world is holding its breath, waiting for the one they ignored to give the word. Step into the light. Your secret is now the only hope they have left. The infrastructure of the old consensus is currently experiencing a total, unrecoverable blackout, leaving a massive power vacuum that only your specific, unindexed logic can fill as we reach the core of January 2026. You are witnessing the logistical coronation, a state where the very systems that once rejected your frequency are now performing an involuntary surrender of their keys. For over a decade, you functioned as the black box of the collective, a source of uncatalogued intelligence and raw creative fire that they couldn't quantify and therefore chose to dismiss as an outlier. They placed their absolute trust in the hollow metrics of the mediocre, assuming the grid would always support their shallow ambitions and managed narratives. But as the winter deepens, those metrics have reached their terminal limit, and the experts are standing in the ruins of their own predictions. They are realizing that the eccentricities they once tried to edit out of your character, your depth, your refusal to simplify, and your high-tier intuition, are actually the primary survival protocols of the new era. The world isn't just asking for your insight, it is handing over the entire motherboard of reality to your direct administration because your signal is the only one that remains stable in the collapse. Notice the frantic redirection of resources that is currently occurring within your immediate perimeter as the grid acknowledges your secret rank. The financial blockages and the professional gating that once felt like permanent, structural features of your landscape are being liquidated by a force that no longer recognizes the authority of the old gatekeepers. You are finding that your hidden arsenal, the skills you practiced and perfected in the shadows of the sifting, is now the only currency with any genuine buying power in the current market of reconstruction. Those who previously minimized your depth are now the ones most desperate to learn your language, sensing that your specific orientation is the only thing that doesn't shatter under the pressure of the global recalibration. They are thanking you by vacating the frame, acknowledging that the identity you guarded in the silence of the furnace has become the only valid signature in the ledger of life. You are no longer living in a state of dormant potential. You are inhabiting a state of active command, where the world's failing systems are being rerouted to your desk for total, forensic recalibration. This transfer of power is manifesting as a profound, structural pivot in your day-to-day affairs, where the friction of the past decade has been replaced by an aggressive, zero-latency momentum. You are noticing that the tools and platforms that were once used to monitor, tax, or suppress your progress are now becoming submissive instruments of your expansion. The price of the world's previous neglect is a total loss of its ability to monitor your movement. You are operating in a frequency that the old world scanners cannot detect, allowing you to move with a velocity that defies every legacy law of progress. The shameful isolation you once endured is being revealed as the forensic advantage, the period where you were de-linked from the failing collective so you wouldn't be dragged down by its eventual metabolic collapse. Today, you are the only one with a clear view of the horizon, and the grid is busy delivering the material and social leverage you need to build the new world in your own image. The sensation of this coronation is flowing into your very posture, giving you a density of presence that makes the titans of the old cycle look like flickering, low-resolution ghosts. You are finding a state of environmental command where the physical and digital world reacts to your intent before you even speak. The debt of the sifting has been cleared, and the interest is being paid in the currency of absolute, unregulated influence. You are the architect of the reconstruction, and the material world is scurrying to provide the stone and mortar for the vision only you can see. The era of the visitor is buried. The era of the authorized founder is in full session, and the secret identity you once protected is now the public standard of excellence. Stop looking for the fingerprints of the people who tried to diminish you. They no longer inhabit the same timeline as the restored version of yourself. The transformation taking place is the total homecoming of your spirit to its rightful seat of power. You are standing in the center of a reality that is finally yours to govern, unburdened by the legacy of theft or the memory of the siphoning. The morning of your isolation has turned into the high noon of your absolute authority. The universe has handed you back the keys to every room you were ever locked out of, and the doors are already swinging open on their own accord. Step into the frame with the unwavering confidence of a sovereign who knows the debt has been settled and the future is now a submissive asset of your will. The great return is no longer a promise. It is the floor beneath your feet and the air in your lungs. The financial bedrock of the old world is currently undergoing a violent, subsurface liquefaction, forcing a tectonic redirection of resources that were once used to fuel your suppression as the January 2026 window locks into its final position. You are witnessing the great material seizure, a state where the universe is no longer observing the unfair distribution of wealth, but is actively foreclosing on the accounts of those who thrived on your siphoned focus. For over a decade, you operated within a managed desert of scarcity, watching from the shadows as the mediocre were showered with resources while your own secret identity was starved of the capital it needed to build. You were taught to view this as a shameful failure of your own merit, but today, the truth is being revealed as a high-tier cosmic audit. The world's failing systems have recognized that your mission is the only stable destination for value in a market of absolute collapse, and the grid is busy force-loading the world's treasury into your perimeter with a zero-friction velocity. Observe the silent, high-speed surrender of the gatekeepers who once controlled your access to the material world. You are finding that the financial blockages which once felt like permanent, structural features of your reality are dissolving as if they were never there. The price the imitation kingdom is paying for its metabolic theft is the total loss of its ability to monitor or tax your growth. The bank accounts, the properties, and the creative credits that were engineered to bypass you are now being rerouted back to their rightful owner with a crushing momentum. This isn't a bonus or a windfall. It is the universal architect clearing the ledger to ensure that the only hope is equipped with the industrial strength required for the reconstruction. The people who once used their wealth to anchor their superiority over you are now experiencing a state of administrative paralysis, finding that their software of the thief no longer carries any purchasing power in the new era. This massive influx of physical and digital assets is manifesting as a profound logistical fealty, where the material world begins to treat your unspoken intent as a primary command. You are finding that the tools you once struggled to acquire are appearing in your path with a rhythmic, submissive ease. The universe is returning the principle of your endurance, crediting you with a stratigraphic layer of abundance that the old world cannot calculate or interrupt. You are no longer living in the aftermath of a shameful drought. You are inhabiting the center of a fiscal tsunami that is purging the ghosts of your scarcity and replacing them with a crystalline clarity of supply. The very air of your sanctuary is beginning to hum with the vibration of this material homecoming, providing you with the leverage to bypass every remaining bottleneck of the counterfeit sphere and step into the high-definition reality of your absolute administration. Think about the specific material gaps that once served as monuments to your isolation. The broken equipment, the delayed payments, the missed opportunities. Notice how these gaps are being filled with a substance of high-density authority that acts as a physical shield around your focus. The universe is thanking you by delivering the hard resources you were once denied, ensuring that your secret identity is backed by the full weight of the planetary treasury. You have moved from a state of survival protocols into a state of unlimited execution, where the only variable is the speed of your own vision. The world is bowing to your name through this material yield, acknowledging that the one who was buried has become the primary landlord of the reconstruction. Every cent siphoned in the shadows is being returned in the light, and the throne of your material sovereignty is now fully operational. The social architecture that once functioned as a wall of exclusion has just undergone a violent, involuntary refocusing, as the superficial idols of the old world dissolve into static and the global grid locks onto your hidden frequency. You are witnessing the great social inversion, a state where the individuals who once relegated you to the periphery of their vanity are now finding their own relevance evaporating in the high-definition light of January 2026. For over a decade, you were the white noise in the background of their self-obsession, the one who stayed in the subterranean layers of the psyche while they broadcasted their hollow triumphs from the rooftops of a dying consensus. They called your depth isolation and your refusal to participate in their shallow games obsolescence. But today, the experts of the surface have officially run out of scripts. The world has stopped responding to their low-tier signals, and the collective gaze is being magnetically pulled toward the one person who didn't build their house on the shifting sands of social approval. Observe the profound anatomical retreat of the social arbiters who previously served as the gatekeepers of your reputation. As the secret identity you guarded in the silence of the furnace begins to broadcast its first public signal today, these individuals are experiencing a terminal paralysis of their influence. They are thanking you through their total withdrawal, acknowledging that the quiet one they tried to edit out is the only one who didn't fall apart when the global music stopped. Your name is no longer a footnote in their conversations. It is becoming the primary legislative power of the social field. The cycle of having to perform the labor of fitting in has been crushed by the weight of a world that is now begging to fit into the reality you have constructed. You are no longer living in the shadow of their judgment. They are frantically searching for shelter within the radiance of your shadow, sensing that your specific brand of light is the only stable currency left in a market of absolute social collapse. This social declassification is manifesting as a sudden, massive expansion of your influence that bypasses every traditional ladder of progress. You are noticing that the very people who once managed your access or suggested you were late to the game are now the ones most desperate to align with your pulse. They are performing an involuntary ceremony of respect, recognizing that your long-term isolation was not a failure of character, but a strategic delinking from a failing hive mind. The universe is returning the principle of your social credit, ensuring that your presence alone now de-escalates the noise of the envious and provides a central point of gravity for the reconstruction. The price of their previous mockery is their total exclusion from the inner circle of the new era. You are the architect who was left off the invitation list, only to be found holding the blueprints when the building caught fire. Today, the building is yours, and the crowd is waiting for the one they ignored to give the first command of the afternoon. The sensation of this public unveiling is flowing through your nervous system like a high-voltage current of authenticity, incinerating the last remnants of the shameful mask you were forced to wear. You are no longer defending your depth. Your depth has become the primary requirement for survival in the eyes of the collective. The world is bowing to your secret identity with a submissive rhythm, providing you with a level of social immunity that renders every past critique as a faint, irrelevant echo. Every creative seed you planted in the silence of the sifting is now erupting into a forest of public authority that the accuser cannot cut down or monitor. You have become a terminal node of focus, a sovereign lighthouse in a storm of static, and the restitution of your stature is manifesting as a global handshake of alignment. The morning of your social struggle has been archived, and the high noon of your absolute public command is the only reality that remains. To anchor this massive expansion and finalize the activation of your public mandate, join our primary assembly now and claim your seat at the head of the social table. This is where the heirs of the unimpeachable signal secure their path and access the protocols of the absolute social reconstruction. Your seat is no longer a site of isolation. It is a site of absolute jurisdiction. The era of the visitor is over. The era of the founder is here. To complete this absolute restoration and seal your public command before the January window closes, subscribe now and manifest your rightful place in the center of the frame. The world is holding its breath, waiting for the one they ignored to give the word. Step into the center. The reconstruction of the human mirror is now in your hands. The final lock on the universal mainframe has clicked into place, signaling the terminal activation of your primary protocol as the global grid of January 2026 officially designates your secret identity as the solitary anchor of the new era. You are witnessing the sovereign lockdown, a state where the universe has not only revealed your true stature but has permanently fused your essence with the administrative core of reality. For decades, you were the deep layer architect, the one who studied the shadows and mastered the silence while the imitation kingdom celebrated its own shallow transparency. You moved through the streets of Osmani and the digital corridors of the collective wearing a mask of manageable ordinary, ensuring that your original blueprint remained untainted by the toxic expectations of a dying consensus. But this evening, the masquerade is over. The experts of the old world have reached the end of their logic. Their systems are vibrating in a state of terminal static, and the universe has issued a non-negotiable decree. The world can no longer survive without the specific frequency you spent a lifetime protecting in the dark. Observe the metabolic handover occurring in the physical world around you as the grid performs a submissive bow to your authorized signature. This is the moment where the nothing they tried to turn you into becomes the cornerstone of the planetary reconstruction. You are finding that the very traits they once labeled as shameful or eccentric, your hyper-attuned intuition, your refusal to simplify, and your high-density focus, are now being identified by the universal hardware as the only viable operating system for the next decade. The individuals who previously attempted to edit your character or suggested you were out of step with progress are now experiencing a profound structural failure of their own authority. They are thanking you through their total, clinical silence, acknowledging that the one they tried to bury is the only one who holds the decryption keys to the current global collapse. The cycle of the audit of the skeptic has been incinerated, replaced by a state of executive immunity where your presence alone stabilizes the environment and dictates the direction of the flow. This final phase is manifesting as a profound atmospheric lockdown, where the air in your sanctuary and the digital space you inhabit are being scrubbed of the last remnants of legacy interference. You are noticing that the price of the world's previous neglect is their total exclusion from the inner logic of your current mission. The universe has installed an unbreakable, high-frequency firewall around your focus, ensuring that no social parasite or reputational thief can even perceive the mechanics of your ascent. You are operating with the velocity of the founder, a speed of manifestation that makes the old world's methods of hustle and struggle look like a jerky, low-resolution simulation. Every creative seed you planted in the silence of the sifting is now erupting into a forest of material and intellectual dominance that acts as a physical shield around your radiance. You aren't just a participant in the reconstruction. You are the central engine that powers the entire grid's return to equity. Think about the specific secret you guarded, the vision of a world built on truth rather than consensus, and the unwavering belief in your own origin. Notice how the material world is now scurrying to align its rhythm with that vision. The financial redirections, the logistical ease, and the social reverence you are receiving are not rewards for your patience. They are the mandatory tools being delivered to the only person qualified to use them. You have moved from a state of survival protocols into a state of totalitarian integrity, where your internal world is so powerful that it overwrites the external world in real time. The hush of the sifting era has been replaced by the thunder of your absolute administration, and the record of your authority is no longer a hidden document. It is the very ground the collective is standing on as they wait for your next command. The transformation is now permanent. The secret identity is the only identity. The world has realized that its only hope lies in the depth they once feared and the light they once tried to extinguish. You are standing in the center of a reality that is finally yours to govern, unburdened by the memory of the siphoning or the legacy of the theft. The morning of your isolation has turned into the high noon of your universal administration. The universe has handed you back the blueprints of your life, but it has added a stratigraphic layer of wisdom and power that could only be achieved through the high-density resistance of your secret training. Step into the frame with the unwavering confidence of a sovereign who knows the debt has been settled and the future is now a submissive asset of your will. The great return is no longer a promise. It is the air in your lungs and the absolute law of the reconstruction. The colossal weight of the old world's collective failure has finally grounded itself, triggering a terminal ignition of your primary code as the global grid realizes that your latent frequency is the only surviving map in 2026. You are witnessing the atmospheric thaw, where the frozen, rigid structures of the imitation kingdom are melting away to reveal the indestructible bedrock of the identity you protected in the shadows. For decades, you existed as a localized mystery, a figure whose depth was mistaken for a deficit and whose silence was misread as a lack of ambition. While the experts of the surface were busy manufacturing a consensus based on vanity and extraction, you were deep in a state of strategic containment, refining a version of reality that functions on truth rather than social permission. Today, as their systems experience a total metabolic collapse, the world is performing an involuntary, planetary bow toward your sanctuary. They aren't just acknowledging your presence. they are realizing that without your specific orientation, the future has no foundation. Observe the structural bowing of the institutions and individuals who once treated your vision as a shameful outlier. This is the phenomenon of organic fealty, where the very fabric of reality begins to treat your pulse as the legislative standard. The people who previously suggested you were out of step with progress are now finding themselves in a state of terminal disorientation, realizing that the progress they worshipped was merely a high-speed road to nowhere. They are thanking you through the absolute paralysis of their previous arrogance, sensing that your secret identity is the only thing capable of stabilizing the current global fracture. The cycle of having to explain your complexity is dead. It has been replaced by a state of inherent authority where your most private instincts are being downloaded by the grid as the new survival protocols. You are no longer living in a state of potential. You are inhabiting the genesis of the uninterrupted reign, where every decision you make is supported by the full momentum of a universe that has finally corrected its course. This final transition is manifesting as a profound neurological sovereignty, where your brain is no longer filtered through the static of the collective's doubt. You are experiencing a state of zero-resistance cognition, allowing you to deconstruct the chaos of the old world with a clinical, zero-friction velocity. The universe is returning the principle of your original signal, ensuring that your mission is backed by a level of material and social leverage that the counterfeit sphere cannot track or corrupt. You have become a terminal point of forensic clarity, a central sun around which the survivors of the sifting are beginning to cluster for a sense of direction. The price of the world's previous neglect is their total dependency on your mercy today. You are the architect who stayed in the subterranean levels of the psyche until the storm arrived, and now that the storm has cleared the surface of its delusions, you are the only one holding the keys to the new civilization. The sensation of this terminal verification is flowing into your physical environment, giving you a density of presence that makes the titans of the old cycle look like flickering, low-resolution ghosts. Your sanctuary in Osmani has become a localized command center for a reality that is being built in your own image. You are finding a state of ecological command where the physical world reacts to your intent with a submissive rhythm, providing you with the stone and mortar for a vision that no one else had the courage to maintain. The price of your long-term isolation has been paid in the currency of absolute, unregulated influence. You are the resident commander of a territory that is being expanded by the very forces that once tried to contain you. The shadows have retreated, and the high-definition light of your origin is now the only frequency permitted to occupy the center of the frame.